The Rebel Capitalist Show.
All right, everyone, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to bring someone to the Rebel Capitalist Show that I've really looked forward to talking to. He really needs no introduction. His name is Gerald Celente. Gerald, welcome to the Rebel Capitalist Show.
Thanks for having me on, George.
For those of my viewers who don't really know your backstory, can you get us up to speed?
Well, sure. I began at a graduate school. I started running political campaigns in Westchester County in New York, which is the richest county in America. And I worked on a mayoral campaign and then district attorneys and state senators. And they sent me up to Albany.
Okay.
And I became the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate at 26 years old. And then I designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology and taught it at St. John's University. And then I became the government affairs specialist for a major segment of the chemical industry back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I was killing environmental legislation right at the height of the environmental movement. Mm-hmm. And, you know, having been in D.C., and matter of fact, when I was the number two guy, I moved up to the number two guy in this trade association. I was with Ronald Reagan for over an hour and a half when he was our keynote speaker. I had to pick him up at the Chicago Hilton in those days in a taxi cab. And it was 2 days before he announced he ran against Gerald Ford. So I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I know what the deal looks like. And I was about 32 years old, I became a political atheist. And what happened was, I was living between Chicago and D.C. at the time. And Jimmy Carter was president. Yeah. And he came back from Iran. And he announced to the American people that the Shah was the island of stability in the Middle East. This is when the whole thing's breaking out in Iran. Mm-hmm. And the Bronx used to have a saying, bullshit has its own sound. And at that moment, I became a political atheist. I'd seen enough. And all the Americans, you know, were, those terrible Iranians. You know, of course, they knew nothing about the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953, the democratically elected president of Iran by the CIA and the MI6, Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's great-grandson, and on, you know. So they had no clue what was going on. And then as people are getting emotionally involved in all of this, I said to myself, what will the implications be? And I realized that gold and oil prices would go up. This is like 1978, you know. So I started playing the futures market. And I ended up parlaying a $5,000 bet into almost $750,000. And I quit my job.
That's really cool. And adjusted in nominal terms, so adjusted for inflation, a lot more.
Yeah, but again, by the way, I ended up losing most of it. It's gambling away. But I realized that you look at the things for what they are, not the way you want them to be. Mm. How many adults still call themselves Democrats or Republicans or liberals or conservatives? You know, grow up. How about calling yourself an open-minded person? Yeah. And I realized that you have to make connections between different fields. If your head is just in economics, I came up with a saying, opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. So I started viewing the world in all those very different categories, whether it's the environment, social change, health. Matter of fact, the first book I worked on was Natural Healing back in the mid-'80s. And there was no such thing back then. Back then, you couldn't find a health food store. They were buried in the crummy parts of town that were all run down. You had a little health food store, and the people that worked in them didn't look very healthy, you know, going back to then. So anyway, I started looking in many, many different fields, and that's how I began the Trends Research Institute, making connections between different fields, and I started that in 1980.
Wow, so you've been writing the Trends Journal since 1980.
No, I began the Trends Journal in 1991, but I began the whole concept. I used to do keynote speakers all around the world, from De Beers to American Express, you name it. You know, I was getting big dough, and I just started hated doing that after a while. And that's when I began writing the magazine.
I really want to get your opinion on what's going on right now from a standpoint of personal freedom with the virus and the cost benefit analysis there. And then I want to go into your most recent report. But it seems to me that a lot of people are looking at this and the regulations, whether they're for them or they're against the lockdown, for the lockdown, whatever. They're looking at it as it is today. And to me, that's a little bit it's like looking at 2011 as it was the day after, instead of asking yourself, okay, if we go through with this Patriot Act, as an example, what's the cost of that going to be over the next decade, over the next 20 years? And I'm not just talking about the outlay of taxpayer dollars, let's say, but in the decrease in output, now it takes you 4 hours to get on a plane instead of a half hour. I mean, you could go down the list of resources that are being misallocated as a result of this additional security. And what's the benefit of that? A lot of people could argue not that much. So I kind of see what's going on today a lot like what happened then. So I ask myself, well, where is this going to be, or what path is this going to take us down over the next 10 years or next 20 years from a standpoint of personal freedom and personal liberty? What do you think?
It's gone. You go back to, after 9/11. Isn't it great? You look like you're old enough to remember when it was fun to fly.
Yeah.
I'm late for an airplane and I'm running to the gate. Now I got some freak feeling me up because I won't go through those electronic things. And
yeah, I don't do that either.
Yeah.
You're the only person I don't do that. I always opt out. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got some little little jerk, feeling up, and and so they've taken away our freedom. It's a whole different world, and it's gone. Go back to the COVID when this broke out. They all called it, every one of these low-life politicians in the media, they called it a war, the COVID war.
All right.
Go back to 9/11. It was war on terror.
Right.
You had a low-life piece of garbage crap like George W. Bush, another daddy's boy, born on third base, thought he had a home run, like the little clown we got here in New York, Cuomo. Yeah, like his arrogant little brother. Two nobodies. If daddy wasn't Mario. So now they got this low-life piece of crap, George W. Bush. People forget we were in a recession in 2001. The dot-com bust happened in March of 2000. And by the way, we had forecast that in the Trends Journal. We said in October 1999, I said it would bust by the second quarter of 2000. So we're in a recession. His popularity ratings going down the toilet. 9/11 comes, the Afghan war, goes up to over 80%. Mm. I'm mentioning that because that's what happened with the COVID war. And not only in the United States, around the world. Everybody started marching to, this is war, this is war, this is war, this is war. And everybody marched off to war. We're obedient, we follow the leader, we follow the leader. It's the same way they hailed Hitler, marched to Mussolini, and saluted Stalin. No different. No different. I'm up here in Kingston, New York. We're about 90 miles north of New York City. The place is top, dead. And I watch people drive by with masks on and their car windows are up and walk down the street with nobody around with masks on. Fear sells. Yeah. Fear sells. Look, I was talking about getting on an airplane. How many times did they blow up airplanes since 9/11? Oh, because of the security. Hey, they could blow up any damn thing they want. They don't have to blow up an airplane. What's happened since 9/11? Well, nothing. Yeah, because we had great security. Yeah, shove it. So you're asking me what's happened? It's gone. Liberty's lost. I had a rally over here. If you Google up most historic 4 buildings in America, Kingston, New York, I own 3 of them. Okay. And I had a rally on the 4th of July. I had Judge Napolitano here from Fox to talk about freedom and how a loss of liberty and how this is against the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, what they're doing. They have no right making up, there's my executive order. Take that executive order and shove it. How about that? Oh, no, I'll tell you what to do. So we had this rally. They had Black Lives Matter rallies all over this place.
Right.
Do you know how attacked I got for putting on that rally? We invited the Black Lives Matter people here. They wouldn't come. You know why? Because I'm on Alex Jones and Napolitano's on Fox News. The hatred that I got for this, the hatred for me having, you ready? A 4th of July Independence Day rally to unite for peace and restore freedom.
Right.
How dare I? How dare I? But it's okay for them to do those things. What? We've lost it. It's gone. And it's not only America. It's a world of cowards. Look what's going on in Australia. Whoop, lockdown Melbourne again. You read the media hype, you know, cases skyrocketing. Cases don't equal deaths. What is the recovery rate? Depending on whose data you look at, 99.3 to 99.8% recovery rate. How many people died in Australia? March, April, May, June, July, 5 months, population of 25.5 million people, 252 people in 5 months out of a population of over 25 million. And you lock down the place, destroy millions and millions of lives. And what do the people do about it? They bend over and take it.
Yeah, well, a lot of times they ask for more. They ask for additional lockdowns. What I don't understand is right from the very beginning, I started talking about this on my YouTube channel in January as far as the virus. And I was always kind of pissing off everyone from the standpoint of I thought, okay, well, it's probably a little bit worse than the flu. And this was back in January, February when you're seeing all the data. But I also said, I don't think we should lock things down because once you allow the government to have that much control over your life, there's no going back. You can't go in reverse and get more personal liberty. Once you've lost it, it's completely gone. And I always thought they should give us the data, be honest. I know it's a stretch for the government, but then let people make their own decisions, for heaven's sakes. If you want to keep your business open, keep it open. If you want to keep it shut, shut it. It should be individual choice, not this tops-down approach. And if we've lost liberty now, if it's already gone, what does it look like in 10 years? Because if you go back to 2000, we had a lot more liberty back then. Go back to 90 to 1980. I mean, every step of the way. So what does it look like in 2030?
One of our top trends, I think it was 2018 or 2019, I forget. The geeks shall inherit the earth. The first people to shut down in America was the Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, Twitter. They were the first ones to do it.
All right.
And we said they got it wrong in the King James Bible. It's not the meek shall inherit the earth. The geeks have inherited the earth. And there's no such thing anymore as freedom. You have they know everything you're doing everywhere you go. And the more they do this, the more they're going to keep contact tracing everybody. They know everything about your life. I don't have a cell phone. I have an old flip phone that I carry in my car when I remember to put it in there in case, I won't do it. And because I started doing work for the cellular telecommunications industry back in 1994. And I read about the dangers of it since then when they had these big things in the trunks of cars with aerials, So I've been following it since. But no, there's no freedom at all. And again, we became the geek world. People are hooked to the tech world. And that's more and more of what it's going to be. And the young people, this is their lives. They've just it's their new abnormal is that.
How do you think the Fed plays into the loss of freedom? And what comes to my mind first is just the banning of cash, maybe using a Fed coin, something like that, where I talked to Ron Paul about this last week, where everyone would have an account with the Fed, just like the primary dealer banks. So they would monitor all of your transactions, and people would go for that because of UBI or the next round of stimulus, the only way you can get that is to download the Fed app, let's say, on your phone, and then they track everything. Where do you see that going?
Well, it was one of the covers of our Trends Journal a few months ago. You don't want to touch that dirty cash. You don't want to touch that dirty cash.
Right.
So we're going to go from dirty cash to digital trash. And they know every penny that you spent. Yeah, that's the cover of the magazine. And they know every penny that you spent, where you spent it, so they could get every penny that they want from you, so they could live their lives the way they want. Look, these governors and mayors, all these politicians, they could close down anything they want. They don't have to worry about earning a living. They have the best benefits of anybody, retirement, healthcare, you name it. They steal our money in the name of taxes. They could care less about us. So now this gives them even more money, and they're going to need it. Because, yeah, New York City's dead. New York City's over. It's finished. And it's not only there, it's all over. The little clown running Massachusetts just announced today that they're holding back the opening up the next phase. You know how many Massachusetts, over 60% of the people that died in Massachusetts were from nursing homes.
Right.
And on average, in America, and this is the low number, the low, quote, official number, 43% of all the deaths in America are people chronically ill from nursing homes. You know, you go into a nursing home, you get better after a while than you go to day camp, right? You never die. So it's great, you know. They're in a nursing home. They're on their way out.
Right.
And who else is dying? I can't figure out why America has such a high rate. Obesity, type 2 diabetes. You never hear about build up your immune system. Oh, when I held this rally over here, you could look it up, the Daily Freeman, the local paper. Did they attack me for having the rally, and now they're waiting for the virus spike. The cases to spike because I had this rally here where a couple of hundred, about 250 people showed up. And I put it in my garden so I wouldn't have to deal with the city. The cases went down. You see, I caught the virus, right? I was there. What I'm saying is, of course I didn't. Nobody did. Nobody caught anything. In Ulster County, where this is, there's 175,000 people, 90 deaths. Now, again, we're going March, April, May, June, July, right? July 4th, I had it. 25 of them came from one nursing home. One nursing home. You go to Australia, go to Sweden, go anywhere in the world, France, any place, it's the same story. Elderly people and people suffering from chronic illnesses. Oh, no, but I know a friend of a friend that knows a young person that died. Yeah, okay, save it. We're talking about now, in the world, about 700,000 people died. Out of a population of 7.8 billion. Hey, how many people died in Yemen yesterday? Oh, only 10 from Saudi bombings. Only a couple of million in Iraq were killed by America. Don't even talk about that. Afghanistan, who cares about any of that? But again, put it back into perspective. Back in 1957-58, when I was a little kid, of course I knew nothing about this, there was the Asian flu. It killed 1 million people. We had a population of 3 billion people. We have 7.8 billion now. If you put the same statistics together, not 700,000 would be dead, 2.6 million would be dead. And again, 2.6 million out of 7.8 billion. Oh, Florida, look, that terrible place, Florida. Oh, Florida. What, about 7,000 people died in Florida? Again, the facts just came out, 42% of them from elder care homes. Okay, so now that you're cutting that almost in half, you got 3,500 people dead. March, April, May, June, July, now we're in August, out of a population of 21.5 million people, and you close down. They have destroyed the global economy. Kenya, name the place, South Africa. Here's what was going on, George. before this happened, one of my top trends for 2020 was New World Disorder. There were riots going on in France, in Hong Kong, in Chile, in Bolivia, in Peru, in Lebanon, in South Africa, in India, one place after another. Other than Hong Kong, it was all about lack of basic living standards, crime, violence, government corruption. They couldn't stop them. Now they're stopped. And I believe that China used this to end the Hong Kong protests. You know, the magazine, the Trends Journals are weekly. We were writing about the Hong Kong protests when they broke out last June. Every week. I've been on Hong Kong TV a number of times, talking to the reporters, you know, in between the segments and all what's going on. But, oh, we're fighting. We're not going to let this stop. They're not going to stop us. Broke out in Yunnan province. Cover of the Trends Journal, January 28th. Coronavirus, 106 dead in China. And our next line was 1.4 billion still alive.
Yeah.
They used this to close down, and so did the other governments. And now what's happening is and again, I've been there. The people that are in politics are the same people you couldn't stand in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. And they were dumber than crap, with bad attitudes, arrogant, and narcissists. That's who's ruining our lives.
Yeah. How do you see this playing out with Americans trying to leave? Because in the past, we've heard Ron Paul, you know, whenever they talk about building a wall, he said, be careful what you wish for, because a lot of times when a country builds a wall, it's not to keep people out, but to keep people in. And just in my recent experience trying to go from Fort Lauderdale to St. Bart's, where I am now, to get some more personal freedom, it was unbelievably challenging to get here as an American citizen, to the point where I had to literally go to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands just to get a COVID test, because everywhere in the Caribbean required that I had a COVID test that had been done within 3 days. But in Florida, although you could get one done, you couldn't get the results back for 5 days. So effectively, you couldn't leave. There was a Berlin Wall, if you will, around Florida. So I had to fly to St. Thomas, the only place that didn't have that restriction, just to get a COVID test. And then finally go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, then down to St. Bart's. So I think as Americans that are worried about freedom from their government, they always worry about, well, they're not going to let me leave. But what happens if we get to a point where it's not that Americans can't leave, but no other countries will allow them to come in?
I mean, look what's going on now. You can't go to Europe.
Yeah.
And look what it's doing to their tourism. 26% of the tourism business in Europe comes from America.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're warning about the second wave. They're locking down again in Spain. You know, it's insanity.
Yeah.
No, I was going to leave the country. That's why I ended up buying those buildings, by the way. I was in Berlin I got there on April 17th, 2012, because I had enough of this, you know, robbing me of my rights all the time. And you've been to Berlin?
I have not. Frankfurt.
Berlin was grander than Paris before it was bombed out. And I spent a good time in Paris. Marie Pierre, wonderful woman of my life. And we're still good friends. And she taught me a lot. Anyway, I'm having a beer after they're driving me all around. This is what, you know, East Berlin was. And I'm noticing everywhere I went, I'd see brand new buildings and an old one. And I'm having a beer, looking across the street, this great German construction, and then all new construction. And Berlin was grander than Paris before it was bombed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying to myself, why didn't they stop it before it ended? Why didn't they stop? Where were the people? Why didn't they stop it before the whole thing was destroyed? Mm. And being an Italian, you know, I'm saying same thing with Mussolini. Why didn't they stop him?
Yeah.
And I came back, and there was a for sale sign on the Franz Rogan house, the 1750 building. And on the three corners, I ended up buying 3 of them. I said, I can't run away. There are two-bit freaks everywhere. This is my country. I wouldn't be me if I was born in, Alta Villa Arpina, Vico Quenz in Italy. I'm me because I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. I grew up as a kid. You didn't go home crying. I was the smallest kid. The bullies wanted to hit me first. You learn how to fight. You learn how to think for yourself. You learn how to be a man. You learn how to grow up. I couldn't have been that. I would have been caught into a culture. And now going back to what you're saying, now I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to live like this.
Right.
I don't want to live in this environment. I love old jazz. I love the beginning of rock and roll in the late 40s to the early 50s before Elvis Presley. That's my passion. I don't listen to music anymore. I'm so sad. I'm so heartbroken to see what's happened to the country.
Yeah.
I go out to a restaurant. You could sit down. You don't have to wear a mask as you're eating, inside or out. But when you stand up, you got to put the mask on.
And then they got a
virus stops
plexiglass
exactly
thing
at
too.
table
Don't
length.
forget the plexiglass. It's like being in the penalty
well,
box.
the wind
playing
doesn't
hockey.
blow. If you're in Europe, it's a meter. But if you're in Germany and France, it's 1.5 meters. If you're in America, it's 2 meters.
Yeah.
These are the same stupid people that had us hiding under desks in case an atom bomb went off when I was a kid in school. Like hiding under a desk is going to save your life. And then when we were in high school, we had to put our hands behind our heads as we stood up against the wall. And we're laughing, and they yell at you, stop laughing. Oh, and if you see a flash, don't look at it. They're telling you this shit. If you see a flash, don't look at it. If I see a flash, I'm going to be dust. If a bomb goes off and I'm under a desk, it's going to mean nothing. These are the same imbeciles that are saying, it's okay to eat without a mask off, but when you stand up, you got to put it on. And the wind doesn't blow 1 meter, 2. It stops exactly where we're telling you. And again, the people that are dying are the elderly, the infirm. And so what I'm saying is you have the same sick people that had us hiding under desks are giving us these moronic laws. And they're going to keep robbing us more and more of our rights because the people aren't fighting for them. There's no fight for freedom.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And going back to Germany, people, I think, always wonder, well, how was the Berlin Wall built? Like, why did they allow that to happen? Can't they see that there's this wall going up around the city and the people inside? Didn't they just want to leave? Just say, okay, the wall's not built yet. I'm gone. I'll see you later. But the way it was sold to people and the way it's always sold to them is it's for their personal security. Yep. This is for your security. This is for your safety. And you just hear that constantly now, especially in the United States, not only from the politicians, but you just call your bank. Try to go out and withdraw $2,000 in cash from your bank. You've got to write out a form and they ask all you questions. But every single time, it's for your security. It's for your safety, everything. And it's just the way it's always sold. And whenever you hear this is for your security, that's code for just please allow us to take away more of your personal liberty.
You got it. And they're doing it. And it's only going to get much worse.
Yeah. So let's go into your most recent journal, Gerald. You had so much just incredible information in there. The first thing that caught my eye is you talked about the second quarter recap, I believe, for the economy. And this included some of the unemployment numbers. And you also went in and looked at the hotel unemployment, and especially for the United States, because 70% of our economy is consumption. And you've got so many workers that are in the hospitality industry compared to maybe another country that had more manufacturing. And so it really affects us greater than other countries because of the way our economy is built. So can you walk us through your insights from the last journal report there?
Yeah, well, on the hospitality sector, it's gone. And then you put into other aspects of that, like the casino business. Like
I saw that with MGM.
Yeah. And when, whether they're down like 90, 95, 98%.
Yeah, MGM revenue, I'm looking at my notes, was down 91%.
Yeah. And Win came out, I think it's down to 90, 95, 98%. Macau as well, not only lost it. Now think of all the workers, all the people in that industry, gone. And these aren't highly paid people to begin with.
Yeah.
And now you have the hotel business. Oh, Yelp came out and said they expect 53% of the restaurants not to reopen. 53%. In New York already, 3,000 are gone. But New York City.
Yeah, see, that's such a huge point, Gerald, because so many people think that, oh, if we could just get rid of the lockdown right now, although it may be advantageous from a personal liberty standpoint, they think that the economy would just come right back to where it was before. But they don't understand how this works, that once a business goes out of business, you don't just flip a light switch and have it come back.
And then again, you look at all the interrelated people, so you have a restaurant. Oh, they're delivering the food. Oh, then they have to, one service after another, to the garbage, gone. That was the whole line, by the way, when they started closing down everything. All the people that love to close down, this is what they would say. It'll come back. It'll come back. Grow up. This thing was going down before this happened. Go back to 2019. I mentioned about the riots and protests going on in India. And again, we write about this stuff every week. Mm-hmm. There were over 1 million jobs lost in 2019 in India, just in the auto sector. The auto sector was crashing. They had 9 consecutive quarters of declining GDP. 2019. Germany, negative GDP last quarter of 2019. Auto industry also down. China, auto industry down. Oh, China's GDP, it hit a 1990 low, 2019. Mexico, already in recession. This thing was going down before. It's over. We are in the greatest depression. My greatest fear is that history is repeating itself. Now we keep hearing more and more about the trade war, the trade war, the trade war, the trade war, currency war, trade war. Oh, yeah. Let's go back to 1930s. There was a currency war and a trade war, and then there was a Great Depression, and then there's World War II. And now we have currency war, trade war, greatest depression. This is going to be look at the numbers already. It's going to be far worse than the Great Depression and World War III. And this will be the war when they asked Einstein what kind of weapons will be fought in the Third World War. He said, I don't know. He said they'll be using sticks and stones to fight the fourth. I was a keynote speaker at VMI, Virginia Military Institute, going back when I came out with the book Trends 2000. And they brought me there to talk about New Millennium Warfare, because I was writing about it back then. And they say the generals are always fighting the last war. And they are. Look at the stupid aircraft carriers. They're dust like that now. I mean, they're like old battleships. Their F-35s aren't worth garbage. And by the way, in the new thing that they're putting out to give us more money, or more money to the big cats, they got $7 billion in there to buy more jets. What I'm saying
really? The bailouts and stimulus?
Yeah, that's what it's in there. So anyway, that's my greatest concern.
Yeah.
And to show you how stupid the people are, again, one of our covers were dumb enough to believe Bush's was, and we have a great artist, Anthony Frieda, and he had George Bush as Alfred E. Newman. Dumb enough to believe Bush's war, dumb enough to believe the COVID war. Look, as I said before, how many people marched off to Bush's wars. How they believed it. The Iraq war, based on lies. The Afghan war. We got to get that guy Saddam Hussein. No, I mean, what's his name? Osama bin Laden. Oh, yeah, it's the longest war in American history. And it just keeps going on. And nobody cares.
Yeah, look at what happens every time they announce a war. I mean, first they start with a war on poverty. Then it's a war on drugs. Then it's a war on terror. And what are the results of these? I mean, I understand the intentions, and most people, they get hyper focused on the intentions because it makes them feel good. But when you actually look at the results on net balance, they're just absolutely horrible. So what happens with this, next quote unquote war on COVID? Most likely, when you look at it, the pros and cons, it's not going to be good. That's for sure. Another thing that you talked about in your most recent report was the corporate debt time bomb. And I think this is really, really something that most people are just kind of whistling past the graveyard. They don't really understand that it exists. And now, of course, since the Fed came in and backstopped it with everything back in March, what have the corporations done? They've just issued even more debt. So if we had a debt problem before, going back to 2008, we had a worse debt problem prior to COVID, and that's why all these corporations were so fragile in the first place. But now, because of the Fed creating really artificial incentives, the corporations have loaded up with debt again. Their balance sheets are even more stretched than they were before.
Yeah. And you mentioned it. Look what the Fed is doing. It's unprecedented. They're buying junk bonds, dumping trillions of dollars into banks and trading houses all over the world. And here's the thing. They're going to do everything they can to keep the equity markets up. Mm-hmm. We were talking before in the general scope of how uninformed the people are and how easy they buy the crap. Most people, again, it'll come back. They don't know how bad it is. They need to keep the stock market from crashing, because when the stock market crashes, then the imbeciles know how bad it is.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why they're keeping it up, because when the markets crash, then everybody knows how bad it is, and people don't have a clue. They don't know the data going on. Like we were talking about the travel industry, one industry after another, up and down the line. Oh, Uber, Disney World, the stocks went up because they're more live streaming. Yeah, the theme parks are dead. They're dead. Oh, AMC, the movies, they're dead. You keep going, we're talking about casinos, they're dead. The restaurant business, dead. One after another, dead. And the people that are dying with them, nobody really cares about. But here's the other bad side of this thing. Remember when the lockdown happened? We have essential and non-essential businesses. You could go into Walmart, but you can't go into your local delicatessen.
All right.
You could go into Costco or Home Goods, but you can't go into the bigs are going to get bigger. And all we are, as I call us, workers on the international plantation of Slavelandia.
Yeah.
Look where you are. Look where you are. Look at the tourist industry. Dead. Gone. Finito. People are afraid. They're afraid. I won't wear a mask outside. Oh, people cross the street, get away from me. I won't go into stores anymore. I want to ask friends and, I won't go. I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize how much the consumption of the average American is predicated upon asset prices being artificially high, such as the stock market because of their 401k, and housing prices. Most people's net worth is really combined into those two key components. So if those take a 50% haircut, then so does the future spending of the person that owns those assets. And if spending or consumption is 70% of the economy, and the consumption goes down by 50% because of asset prices, that's not a good result. And I don't think people really connect those dots. One thing I'd really love to get your insight on, Gerald, because you've kind of been in the belly of the beast as far as being in DC and around politics so much. What's going on in the mind of obviously we don't know individuals, but in the mind of the average politician? And I've had personal experience, unfortunately, with a lot of politicians back before I retired. And just the people that I interacted with were the absolute bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. They had no moral standards. They had no ethics. They would literally just do whatever they needed to do to further their political career, regardless of how many people they wiped out, how many jobs they wiped out in the process. But how do they work? How do they operate? What drives them? What motivates them? And then how can we use those insights to predict what they might do in the future? And I'd also kind of include the Fed in there, because you were talking about when you had the judge out at your most recent event, and how the Constitution, they're just completely ignoring that. But then the Fed right now is totally ignoring the Federal Reserve Act. So it's like all the rules that are supposed to contain the politicians and the Federal Reserve are just being totally ignored, and we're just going along with it. So again, my point is, what drives these people so we can maybe predict what they're going to be doing in the future?
There's a great quote by Eisenhower. You know, 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, 2-term president. And I think he was the president of Columbia University when they got him to run. He said, anyone that seeks the office is either an egomaniac or crazy. And that's who these people are. That's what I was saying. These are the people you hated in high school and college that want to be class president, head of the student council. All they're concerned about is themselves. They even have a stupid thing that they call campaign contributions. How about bribes and payoffs? Can anybody say that?
Yeah.
Oh, revolving door. Not a revolving door. It's run by the greedy, slimy, disgusting human beings who are only interested in themselves and has egos that are destructive to everybody around them. Look at the corrupt system we have. And people say, you know, if you don't vote, then you get what you deserve. What am I going to vote for? Well, I'll vote for a lesser of two evils. Oh, great. You like to hang out with evils? I got it. You like doing business with them. Maybe you have a relationship. Oh, yeah, but it's a lesser of two evils. How can an adult say something so immoral, so satanic, that they admit that they put their trust in an evil? My president didn't kill as many as yours did. You know, the one I liked, Obama didn't kill as many as Bush did. You know, here's one for you. 2 days ago, 6 Democratic attorney generals confronted Facebook to get rid of the hate messages that people keep putting on there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, like, how about this for a hate message? I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. I don't want that guy Assad there anymore. I want him out of there. I'll destroy Libya. I don't give a damn. I'm Barack Obama, the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner. How about that for hate? How about that for hate? Hey, that guy Hussein, I want him out of there. How about that for hate? Oh, no. It's hate if you say, you know, they're destroying us with this phony crap about COVID, and that's hate. But you could start all the hate you want. I want that guy Maduro out of there. I don't like him in Venezuela. That's okay. That kind of hate's okay. So when you're asking me who the people are, that's who they are. And it's the same clowns that want these jobs. Attorney General. Oh, you little piece of crap. You arrogant little boy. When I had that rally over here, I do YouTube. I'm out there a lot. Little Andy Cuomo, come here and try to put a mask on me. Come over here and no. Leave your little boys behind. You come man to me and put a mask on me. I got a better one. Try telling me I can't have my 4th of July Independence Day rally. You come and stop me, man to man. These aren't men and they're not women. They're low-life pieces of crap. If you've been in the system, you know what scum they are, and all they do is suck off the public tit. They never work a day in their lives. They steal our money. Look at them. Oh, I'm a Democrat. I like Nancy Pelosi. No, I like Chucky Schumer. No, I'm a Republican. I like Mitch McConnell. No, Lindsey, did you come out of the closet yet? Graham, he's my kind of guy. Look at these freaks. How can anybody, now you do that and you go around and you look at your governors. One piece of garbage crap after another. Look at your mayors. Look who's running your lives. And again, name the country. Name the country. The Italians bow down to that piece of garbage Conte. Not even an elected. Not even an elected guy, prime minister. In the two parties, they pick a prime minister. Boom, like that. Yeah. I'm not going to name the show anymore. I won't name it. I'm not on anymore. And I was their favorite. Because when this was breaking out in Italy, and they asked me about it, I said, no, I said, Italy has the oldest population in Europe. The Lombardy region is very polluted, and the average age of the people is over 80. And the host said, well, you don't care about the Italian people? And they never had me back on again. The people that died in Italy, the average age is 80 years old. And the same thing in Switzerland, Sweden rather, one after another. Oh, and the mask thing. All right. Again, it's in your Trends Journal. They're not wearing masks in Sweden. They're not wearing them in Norway. They're not wearing them in Finland. They're not wearing them in Holland. They're not wearing them in Denmark. They're not How come I got to wear them? What am I talking? What are these third world countries? You look at the hype in the media. I call it the toilet paper record. They call themselves the paper record, the New York Times. The tragedy going on in Latin America. 200,000 people dead. I go Google up population of Latin America. God, I forgot the number. It's about, I think about 600 million or 800 million. Mm. And you tell me 200,000 people died. Oh, and you know the living conditions in so many places, in Mexico and Peru and Bolivia, Colombia, and there's no poverty in Haiti. Everything is at the highest level. Nobody's dying of anything. It's so luxurious. We got to stop this virus. Look at the filth, the pollution. Oh, you're worried about COVID? How about all those pesticides in your food? Oh, that's okay. You like the chemicals. No, give me those artificial flavors and the artificial colors. More GMOs for me. Hey, did you fix the water in Flint yet? You can't drink the crap anywhere around the world. They're killing us in a million ways. And people are freaked out on this.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, too, especially for Americans. I don't think they realize how obese the entire country is and how negatively that impacts health. I spend a lot of time outside the United States, and people are a lot healthier in other countries. Yeah, that's just the simple fact that they're thin. So maybe we should get our priorities straight. But as far as the government, these politicians, obviously you have no love affair with these people, nor do I. But the solution, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if we could just wave a magic wand, would be to shrink the size of the federal government. And I think it's Milton Friedman touched on this, where his hypothesis was there would be an inverse relationship between the size of the government and then the moral strength of the individuals who would apply for those jobs. So in other words, as the government increases in size, the people who want that power are going to be less and less moral, where if you decrease the size of the government, the people who want those jobs would be more and more moral and more in line with having, our stereotypical outlook for a politician. That's, this guy or gal is just a public servant. And it's kind of correlated with the size of government. So do you think if we could just wave the magic wand, that would be a solution, just to radically shrink the size of the federal government?
It would be part of it. I just want to, ironically, I just started reading this yesterday. The Real Lincoln by Thomas D. Lorenzo.
Okay.
Lincoln's not the great guy that everybody likes, according to what I'm reading.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's
I
very
know.
pro-slavery for a very long time. And what he did is he killed the freedom of the states and made the big federalized government. And now with the Federal Reserve, that was the beginning of the movement toward that in so many ways, with the federal government taking over the monetary system in a way that's not beneficial to the people. So, number one, I agree with you. And number two is I also believe in direct democracy.
Okay.
So you take a country like Switzerland. They haven't been in a war since 1850. They haven't been in a war since 1850. Wars all around them. Machiavelli even mentioned it way back when, that the Swiss, they all had guns and the people rule the country.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have a lot of guns there.
Yeah. Machiavelli, going way back then. So I believe in direct democracy. Oh, the people are too stupid. Oh, yeah. Like I said, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Lindsey Graham, McConnell, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant people. You're not smarter than them?
Yeah.
So let the people vote. You want to go to war, let the people vote. I launched Occupy Peace, as you may know. And now it's called Occupy Peace and Freedom because they robbed us of our freedom. And so, and anybody who wants to donate, we need the money to make it happen. And God bless Neil Anderson, who passed away, may rest in peace, left us money as we're doing these rallies and things. But
do you have a
back,
website that we can plug real quick, Gerald, for that?
Yeah, occupypeace.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And anyway, so what I'm saying is let the people vote. You want to go to war, let the people vote. You want that tax break that Trump gave everybody, that according to the tax policy center, 82% went to the 1%. Let the people vote. You want to put a wall up or don't want to put a wall up? Let the people vote. Let the people vote. They don't represent me. They represent the people that give them money. Again, as I said, only morons and imbeciles call it campaign contributions. They're bribes and payoffs. So yes, I agree with you. You shrink this thing big time. And then direct democracy. And going back to the shrinking, you know, that I actually have a cousin, Vinny. And he lives between
all Italians.
he lives between Italy and America. So we go to the World Fair back in 2015. And I got some fans out there wanted to meet me. So we were up in Milano, going to great restaurants, and everybody's talking, and everybody's complaining. They can't paint their house the color that they want. They can't cut down these trees. Those grapes you had over there, you can't take those out. You've had those there too. The bureaucracy is beyond belief. So I said to them, I said, what are you doing to stop this? And this is what they do. What are we going to do? And my heart dropped out of me. I was so ashamed of them. And it's the same thing everywhere. What are we going to do? And when we talk about Germany, every German that I know, from people my age and, 20, 30 years, 40 years younger, they're ashamed of themselves. Their parents, I said, what did your father say about this? My father wouldn't talk about the war. My uncles wouldn't talk about the war. Germans are ashamed of themselves. How can they let a guy like Hitler destroy everything that they had? Again, the 1930s, they were at the height of Western civilization. Oh, the science. Oh, yeah, weren't they the people? Didn't the Americans bring them after the war to make the atomic bomb? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's science? Oh, yeah. Culturally, philosophically, the Germans were at the top. And they let a freak destroy them. Nothing's changed. Look at America. The presidential reality show. Trump or Biden. How low can you go? That's your choices you got?
Yeah.
A democracy? Grow up. It's a rigged game. What democracy? It's not a democracy. It's a gang. A gang of murderers and thieves. By their deeds you shall know them. You got your hat on over there. Too big to fail. What did the Fed dump in? How much did they dump in? What, $29 trillion? Came in, the Levy Institute did that study. $29 trillion the Fed pumped in after between 2007 and 2010 into banks all over the world. Banks, corporations, greed. Hey, Celente, calm down. What I say is, don't tell me to calm down. I think the Prince of Peace became violent and picked up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. Yeah, Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, becomes violent because of what the money changers were doing back then. Nothing's changed. Just the different names, different people.
Yeah. What type of advice can you give the average Joe or Jane just moving forward with what you see on a macroeconomic level and what's going on with politics and the Fed, but just to increase not only their standard of living, but maybe their financial situation, maybe not only survive, but thrive in this crazy world, and also increase their personal freedom? I mean, do you suggest maybe if you're in an urban area, going further out to the suburbs, maybe into a rural area, getting a second passport? What type of advice can you give for just the average person?
On the first one you said about moving out of densely populated areas, we wrote about this in the Trends Journal in February when this began. One of my sayings is, again, being a Bronx kid, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it.
They lose it,
and they're losing it big time. Violent crimes going up all around the world.
And the riots. I mean, we got riots and looting.
And it's going to get much worse. We have now in our Trends Journal, we have Brad Steiner doing pieces on survival. Brad Steiner is one of the top close combat guys and survivalists in America. He was I used to teach close combat. I had my school for many years. My teacher, John Perkins, not that John Perkins, another John Perkins. You could go look at attackproof.com. Brad Steiner was his teacher, and nobody would mess with John Perkins. So we're telling people, you better learn how to fight. And people break into my house, my business, they smash down the door, break down the window, I'll blow their brains out before they can blink an eye. I'm not going to ask a question. How dare you? What do I know if this person has in there what they're armed or not? So we recommend that people better learn how to use a gun and have a gun. Mm-hmm. We all go through ups and downs in lives. I had somebody that I trusted very, very dearly in business that screwed me big time. And as I'm going down, and I've been in my life, where maybe I drank too much or I did smoke, but I never inhaled. that shows you what crap we got. Remember that one? Anyway. So you ask me what people should do. Get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. When I was going down, I doubled up on everything. I doubled up on my workouts. I doubled up on my diet. And I was in good shape anyway. I got in better shape. You get in better shape. You get in better shape. Get in better shape. Because when you get in better shape, your mind starts clearing out.
Yeah.
You're not worried about this other stuff. Look, you mentioned about obesity. The obesity rate in America, 42%. 42%. We were kids. There were a couple of heavy kids. You go back to 1969, those pictures of Woodstock. Everybody's thin. You had a couple of heavy people. But now, one of my sayings is, that expression, pigs can't fly? You been to the airport lately?
Yeah.
Look what the people look like.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's bringing you down. You're not happy. And this is costly, by the way. It costs all of us. Your habit costs all of us if you're not taking care of yourself and you're becoming obese. We're paying for that. The facts are there. one of our top trends for 2019 was ready to explode, talking about how big America, 70% of America is overweight. Of that 70%, 42, the cost of that is astronomical.
Yeah.
So I want to have a fat tax. The more you weigh, the more you pay. Why should I pay for it?
That's a good one. You got to get it on a scale every year, April 15th.
So to ask me what to do, that's the first thing you do. You get in the best shape you can. And number two, I don't give advice, but by our track record, I call the Gold Bull Run on a trend alert on June 6, 2019, when it was $1,332 an ounce.
Okay.
In June, when silver was at $17.50, I said, now it's ready to spike. It's now at around $27. It's gone up $10 in a month and a half. So for me, it goes back to your hat with the Fed. It's digital trash, backed by nothing and printed on nothing. And they're going to keep pumping it into the system to artificially prop up the governments. And it's global. The emerging markets are submerging. They're deep in debt. The dollar's now going down. The dollar's now at a 2-year low. The dollar was up 33% from 2011. Even with the dollar going up, it just started going down in the last few months. Gold prices were going up. Gold prices were going up even when the dollar was up. And now the dollar's going down. The dollar's going to go down because they're going to keep pumping more and more money in. So what's going up now? Oh, the euro. Oh, yeah, I'd want euros because I love negative interest rates. They're terrific. I'll buy a 30-year bond and get less than what I paid for it. Why would anybody buy euros?
Same thing with the yen.
What?
Same thing with the yen.
Exactly. Negative yields.
Yep.
Now you look at the Turkish lira. Oh, it just hit another all-time low. And one country after another. The dollar is only even where it is because the other ones are so weak. And they're all going to go down. Oh, no, the ECB has a plan on how to save it. Yeah, shove it. So, again, guns, gold, and a getaway plan. GC's 3 Gs.
Yeah, and get healthy.
And get healthy. That's the biggest one. That's the first thing you have to do. I mean, you're a healthy guy. I could see it, your energy and your.
Yeah, I have been that way my whole life. In fact, when you're talking about the story of the health food stores, it really struck a chord with me because I remember I was born in 1973. I remember back in the late 70s and early 80s, my mom driving from where we were down to the local town there. It was called Hillsboro in Oregon. And just to your point, you go off in the little corner of the town in kind of a rough area and this little teeny hole in the wall place. That was the health food store. And that's where we always used to get our food. And hats off to my mom. I appreciate her and love her so much for bringing me up with a healthy diet and really instilling in that with my lifestyle. And I continue that through today at 47 years old. I still eat the exact same way.
Good for you. Again, it's up to people. They don't talk about this at all with all the fear of the COVID. We're waiting for the vaccination. We're waiting for the vaccination. We're waiting for the vaccination. None of them talk about, hey, build up your immune system. Get strong. You don't hear one word about that. Again, the first book I worked on was Natural Healing back in 1986. And that is what you have to, that's number one. You're number one. You got to take care of yourself. You have to build yourself to the highest level. And the other thing that people need to do is just as eating junk food destroys your body, devouring junk news on the Cartoon News Network, on MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NPR, BBC, all of them, just as junk food destroys your physical health, Junk news destroys your mental health. Stay
Yeah.
away from it. Don't go near it. And to me, is to stand up for your freedom. Because if you don't, we're going to be living hell on earth. And it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, said Samuel Adams. The latest study came out. 66% of the people are ready to get vaccinated. Do you know the majority of the people that are against the vaccination? This surprised me, according to the study that just came out. Blacks are the majority against it.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And women, more so than men, are against it. And to me, the reason why women is because, I have two cousins, second cousins, both their children born around the same time, severe, autism. When I was a kid, I'm born 46. I'm the first of the baby boomers. There's 45, 50 kids in my class. There was no such thing. Nobody, but you didn't know. Yes, you did. I see that you know how severe autism is, real bad autism. They didn't have it back then. Maybe you knew somebody whose brother or cousin had Down syndrome. You didn't have this rampant autism back then. Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. Banned from the social media. You can't say anti-vaccinations. It's perfectly fine after a mother's carrying a child in her womb. After 9 months, the child comes out. It's perfectly fine to inject it with all of these chemicals and other things they're putting into an infant's body. How dare you question it? How dare you fight establishment business? Because that's all it is. It's business. And that's the establishment. And it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. The people buy into the establishment.
Yeah, the great point right there, Gerald. I appreciate your time. It's been a fascinating conversation. For my viewers who want to find out more about what you do, your journal, the nonprofit you discussed, where can they go for that?
Trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. And I'm not saying this in a bragging way. There's no magazine like it. Nowhere in the world. We tell you what's going on, what it means, and what's next. So you can prepare, prevail, and prosper, because this thing's going down really big. And again, there's money back guarantee. And it's only $129 a year, and it's a weekly.
Yeah.
And the Occupy Peace. And that's what my passion is, occupypeace.com. Because if we don't have liberty, love, joy, and beauty, we're going to have hell on earth. And it's already changing into that. It's already changing into that. I can't go out. I don't want to go out. I'm not having a good time anymore. I can't go listen to music. I love music. It's not allowed. I can't go into a restaurant and have a nice time and sit at a bar anymore.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
That's why I came to St. Bart's. I mean, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. You may be having you may have some company soon.
Yeah, come on down, Joe. I'll buy you the first beer. It's on me, buddy.
All right.
You don't have to wear a mask. You can actually go out. That's why I came here. Yeah. So, all right, Gerald, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for your time, and I really can't wait to do this again.
Anytime. Thanks so much, and thank you for all that you do.